I had recently gotten married, and shortly after, my wife became pregnant. The 9 months flew by. With the type of job I have, I am given up to 12 weeks of leave for bonding time with the baby. As the end of those short 12 weeks was up, I prepared myself to go back to work. The day came when I finally went back. I was greeted with a bunch of congratulations and handshakes. I carried my route that day. It took longer than I expected since I was a little rusty and out of practice, so I ended up being the last carrier to get back to the post office around 7 p.m. I brought all of my stuff in from my truck and put it away. The only people left at my office were me and the closing supervisor. I shouted to him that I was done putting everything away and I just needed to wash my hands, and then I would be clocking out. I went into the bathroom located at the back of the building, but I was caught off guard when I went into the bathroom, because in there, washing his hands, was this guy Chuck. He used to be a carrier several years back, but he was promoted to safety manager. I hadn't seen him in a long time, but I remember he used to be a huge germ freak and was always washing his hands. I turned to him and say, "Hey Chuck, how you doing?" He didn't respond to me. I figured he didn't hear me, so I say again, "What's up, Chuck? How are you?" Still, he doesn't even look at me, just continues to wash his hands. Normally, I would try to keep talking, but I was already into overtime and had to get off of the clock. I go to the time clock and swipe my time card. As I'm walking towards the front of the building to leave, I see my supervisor and say to him, "Do you know who I just saw in the bathroom?" My boss looks confused and says, "Who?" I said, "Chuck, remember him? I wonder why he's here this late." My boss looks at me in a really creeped out way. He said, "That's not possible. Chuck had a heart attack and died 2 months ago." Being a mailman, we are either hated or loved by people. There's hardly an in-between. But around the Christmas season, people are pretty generous towards us. We usually get gifts from our regular customers who we see on our routes. It can either be $10 in a card, or Mrs. Randall's homemade cookies, or even just a candy bar. But during the Christmas of 2007, I was doing my regular route. It was cold outside, and the grass was covered in brown and yellow leaves. It was Christmas Eve, and I had received a few gifts already. But as I approached this one street, I pretty much figured I wouldn't get a gift from this one certain customer. He was always calling and complaining about me for whatever reason he made up. As a mailman, we are supposed to always be polite to our customers, even if they don't deserve it. So I always tried to kill this man with kindness. But when I got a few houses before his house, I noticed him standing outside. I thought to myself, great, what is he gonna say to me this time? I'm walking to his house, and I notice he's smiling and holding something. I say hello to him and offer a Merry Christmas Eve greeting. He holds out something in front of him. It's a batch of brownies. I'm confused. This guy hates me. Why would he have brownies for me? The guy says he knows he's been a pain in the butt and wants to apologize, and as a way for him to make it up, he baked brownies for me. I thought that was really nice of him. I politely accepted the brownies and thanked him. When I finished my street, I sat in my truck and unwrapped the brownies. I threw one in my mouth. They were bite-sized, so they were easy to eat really fast. They had a weird taste to them though, but I thought it may have been from the taste of the saran wrap. I drive to my next street and begin delivery. My stomach starts feeling weird as I'm walking. Every step I'm taking feels heavier. My breath is getting shorter. A customer notices me from her window. I'm starting to drag my feet and get dizzy. She runs out to me and asks if I'm okay. I go to say that something is wrong, but my words don't come out. Instead, when I open my mouth, a long stream of blood squirts out from my throat. I fall to my knees and look up at this woman, and she has this look of fear as she tells me she is going to call an ambulance. I fall to my side and begin to shake. I can hear the woman on the phone with the dispatcher. She is yelling, and I hear her say something worse than I imagined. She says, "My mailman has collapsed, and he is bleeding from his eyes and ears and mouth. His skin is green, and his lips are purple." The ambulance arrives in a few minutes, and they immediately start pumping my stomach. They pump me full of electrolytes and fluids until I come to. I was able to say I ate brownies that a customer gave me. They went back and examined the rest of the brownies to determine that the man had poisoned the brownies with rat poisoning. It's no secret that mailmen and dogs are not fond of one another. One of the most important aspects of the job is to be aware of dogs. I've been on my route for 6 years, so I know where all of the dogs are on my route. And every day that I do my route, 1340 Encinal Drive has their pit bull outside. It constantly barks at me and seems like it wants to rip me apart. I usually have to throw their mail over the fence so I don't get bit. The owners usually see me do this. They're so annoying, because as I walk by, him and his wife are always laughing, and they say to me, "Do you want to pet my dog?" Like it's a joke or something. This goes on every day, except on this one day. I get to the street, and usually can already hear their stupid dog barking from 10 houses down. But this time, it's silent. I approach the house and see no dog. This is weird because for the last 6 years, this dog has been out every single day. I open the gate quietly and cautiously walk across the yard. I'm looking all around to see if the dog is hiding somewhere, but he's nowhere to be found. I put the mail in the box by the door. As I'm about to turn to leave, I see something through the window. I can't really tell what it is, so I look a little closer. I drop my mail when I see what it is. It's the dog. It's hanging by its leash from the ceiling fan in the living room. It's sliced open from chest to the legs. Its intestines are hanging out from its stomach and piled on the ground below it. I turn around to run back to my truck, and I stop in my tracks. Standing behind me is the husband and wife. They're holding knives, and their hands and clothes are covered in blood. They take a step towards me when I shout out, "What do you want?" The husband looks at his wife, and they both start laughing hysterically. Then the man turns his head at me and says, "Do you want to pet my dog?" We offer many services in the post office. We know it can be a pain in the butt to stand in line to ship packages, so we have made it easier on the customers and started a service where you can send a package right from your doorstep. We pick it up for you and send it off. It's very convenient for the customer, but not always convenient for us mailmen, because sometimes customers want to have a conversation with us as they are giving us their packages. One morning, as I'm getting my route ready, I get a paper informing me that there's a package pickup at 2524 50th Avenue. I recognize that address. The customers' names are Todd and Stephanie. They are boyfriend and girlfriend. I talk to them all the time when I'm delivering. Their house is in the beginning of my route. They are a very cute couple. They have been living at that house for almost a year. They always greet me at the door, and their cat always runs out and rubs against my legs. The cat's name is Rubio. I get to their house around 9 a.m. and knock on the door. Todd opens the door, and he isn't in the same friendly mood he usually is in. I say, "Hey Todd, how are ya?" He says he's not doing so well. Him and Stephanie broke up, and she moved to her mom's house a few towns away. I tell him, "I'm sorry to hear that." He kind of shakes it off, and says, "Well, here's the package." He keeps stressing to me about how he doesn't want me to lose this package because it's for Stephanie, and it's important that she gets it. I tell him I'll take good care of it and make sure she receives it. I put the package in the back of my truck and proceed to carry on delivery of my route. It's about 1 p.m. now, and every time I get into my truck, it smells really bad. I thought maybe my sandwich was spoiling in my hot truck. So I checked it, but it was fine. I don't know where this smell is coming from. I have a few streets left on my route at this point, and I can't take the smell anymore. I open the back of my truck and notice that the package that Todd gave me seems to be leaking some red fluid. As mailmen, we have the right to open people's packages for safety reasons. So I inform my supervisor that this package is leaking and I'm going to open it. I get the okay and I split the tape. This horrible stench seeps out of the package when I do that. I put on my gloves and open the cardboard flaps. I let out a deep breath of disgust when I see what's inside the package. Inside was the mangled body of Rubio. Its heart was cut out of the cat and placed next to Rubio. Inside was a note from Todd. It read, "I ripped out his heart. The same way you ripped out mine, Stephanie." I alerted my supervisor and the police were called. Todd was arrested for animal abuse. And there's only one thing I can say for sure. I made sure that Stephanie did not receive this package. I am a Postal Service city carrier. I take my job very seriously, and I am the safety captain. I work in a pretty bad neighborhood. I wish I didn't, but I do. I'm delivering my route one day when I have a package for a known drug house. I'm a little weary of this house. There's always questionable druggy people standing out front. I notice this package I have smells like marijuana. Being the safety captain, it's my responsibility to maintain security of the mail. I decide I'm going to bring this package back and not deliver it. As I put this package back in my truck, I'm approached by these three men. I get a little nervous because we don't carry any sort of protection. The men tell me they are expecting an important package. I tell them I don't have it, but they aren't buying it. They start getting loud with me. I tell them to step back or I'm calling the cops. This seemed to work because they backed off after. I get in my truck and drive away, but as I'm doing my route, I notice one of the guys is following me. He keeps his distance, but he stands at the end of every street I deliver, just watching me. We deal with a lot of druggies, so I tend to ignore them. They are usually harmless. I finish my route around 6:30 p.m. and head back to the station. I put everything away and clock out at 7 p.m. I leave the front of the post office, and as I'm walking to my car, I see the man from across the parking lot. He followed me back to my job. Thankfully, he did not approach me. I get in my car and drive home. I walk through the door around 7:45 and greet my wife and my 2-month-old baby. We eat dinner and then go to sleep. In the middle of the night, I wake up to hear my baby crying. I get out of bed and stumble out into the kitchen to make my baby a bottle. As I look out of the window above the sink in the kitchen, I see the man. He is standing in my front yard. I run into my room to call the police. My wife wakes up and is confused to what's going on. I tell her there's a man who followed me home. Go into the nursery and get the baby. As I'm on the phone with the police, I hear my wife scream. She yells my name and I run into the nursery. The man crawled through the window and was holding my baby. He had a gun pointed at us. I tried to calm the man down and stall him until the cops came. Fortunately, within minutes I could hear the sirens approaching. The man heard it too, and he dropped my baby on the floor. He jumped out of the window, and I grabbed my baby. The cops found the guy 2 blocks away and arrested him. We took our baby to the emergency room, and thankfully there were no injuries to the baby's head or body. After that, we put locks on our doors and bars on the windows.